Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, G.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. How are you?
I'm good.
Long
good to
morning.
see you.
Good to see you too.
Good morning, Oji. How are you doing today?
Leila, how are you?
I'm good.
Well, good morning to you, viewers. We begin what's trending today in Nigeria. Monday, residents in Sapele, Delta State, took to the streets in protest to Governor Ifeanyi Okowa's extension of the lockdown in the state. The governor had announced the extension of the 14-day lockdown, which began on April 1st for another 2 weeks, and imposed a dusk-to-dawn curfew. In defiance of the order, many women took to the streets as early as 7:30 a.m. to protest, demanding an end to the lockdown. Let's take a look.
Wow, I mean, I'm not surprised that it's largely women. Go back to the Aba riots in 1920. Let's take the sweepers protests in Edo, 1929, the sweepers protests in Edo State that happened in 2016, I believe it was. And now we see this. Why? Because women in Nigeria largely make up the informal working sector and therefore are more affected. So I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that the protesters, while they may have the right to protest, need to be reminded that the COVID-19 is a matter of life and death.
It is.
And this is a time that calls for sacrifice. And, pouring out onto the streets and protesting will mean that perhaps a lot more needs to be done by way of public enlightenment. Now, Delta State this week has recorded its third case. It has 3 cases, but
I believe 4. I think they have.
Well, has it increased overnight to 4?
I think I saw that earlier.
On Tuesday, the governor, who had taken proactive steps, and maybe that's because he's a medical doctor.
He is a doctor.
He had set up isolation centers even when they had no case. When they had their first index case in Delta State, he started contact tracing in 3 senatorial districts. The state is providing face masks free of charge. And, the state are taking the enlightened position to make sure that people stay at home by imposing a stay-at-home order, a dusk-to-dawn curfew. And then the state has also taken the additional step of arresting people, setting up mobile courts. 176 defaulters have been arrested in Delta State alone, but the fine is between 500 naira to 3,000. I think that the fine is too small. People should be made to pay more for trying to commit suicide and trying to kill other people by disobeying directives on the COVID-19. However, as for the women who protested yesterday, the only part of it that we should condemn is the heavy-handedness of the police. Because eventually, the reports indicated that the police waded in, and they ended up shooting one young man in his buttocks. And I think that the police and other security agencies should be told again and again that they should use common sense and discretion. Many of them are beginning to misbehave, and I think all the heads of the security agencies should also ensure that whether it's the military or the police or the civil defense, that they are out there on the streets, yes, to enforce the lockdown, but not to brutalize
Especially
the people.
when it comes to women, because you see that there were mostly women that were out there protesting. But I think that their protest also is in order. They should go and tell the governor
what they want.
They
were
carrying leaves and all that.
What kind of policeman is that would turn the gun on them?
To be very honest with you, what I can see, and I'm sure what a lot of citizens see from this protest, first of all, of course, there's an issue because we can see people are not obeying stay-at-home orders from dusk till dawn, but that is for a very, very, very blatant issue that we're seeing right here. They cannot afford to do so. And they're coming out, and this is their outcry to the government to say, just take in our concerns, take in our problems, and let's try and find somewhere to meet in the middle on this particular matter. Clearly, for this to happen, the palliative measures that are being carried out in that state are not enough. Clearly, for this to happen, there is a lot of unrest that we are still yet to see. So it's up to the governments. And Okpe is one of the more progressive governors in response to the COVID-19 situation.
He's my governor, by the way. I'm from Delta State. I needed to say it.
I never knew you were from Delta.
You are proud of your governor.
I am so proud of my governor.
Mr. Ekpedi is from Delta as well, isn't he?
He's from Delta.
Yes. So, I mean, I would like to see him taking these concerns on board rather than us seeing, you know, the aggression as a response to people's genuine concerns.
Yes.
These women need to feed their families. Like I said, it's women who largely make up the informal sector. No one wants to talk about it.
Very well said.
No, people are talking about it.
We are, aren't we?
At this moment, everyone is vulnerable. But you are quite right. You know, the government of Delta State can still do a lot more.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe a lot more also in the direction of public enlightenment.
Thank you.
Because people sometimes take the laws into their hands or protest out of absolute ignorance. And many Africans think that this thing called COVID-19 is a joke.
And it's not a joke,
and
like
they will tell you they are covered by the blood of Jesus.
And it's not a joke.
Or that COVID-19 is not their portion. You know.
Yeah, that's the one we hear a lot.
The thing is as well, a lot of people weigh up their options and they're more willing to go out and take that risk of catching the virus than the economic risk of not even being able to come home and feed their family. And that's where the issue comes in as well. So even when they are in...
And that's why
at the individual level, well,
Mm-hmm.
maybe this is the time when the extended family support system should work. You know, you can support a lot of people within the family.
Yeah.
You know, and...
All right, well, let's continue. Continuing with the unrest.
Oh, gee, you don't want to support the extended family?
We all know we should, Dr. Abati. This is your lecture right now.
No, it's very important. Very important too, especially at a point in time.
So it's not just government alone.
No.
We shouldn't blame government.
Okay.
You know, some 5,000, some 10,000 from... You know,
Change starts at home.
Noted, Dr. Abati. Noted. Thank you. All right, well, let's continue with the lockdown and the arrests. A police press release has claimed that hundreds of gang members, mostly teenagers, fleeing the police in Lagos and Ogun, which are among the states under a coronavirus lockdown, hoaxed residents into believing that coordinated armed robbery attacks were underway. The police say the gangsters achieved their intention of creating panic, adding that residents set up makeshift checkpoints by burning tires in communities between Lagos and Ogun State after forming vigilante groups to protect themselves from imaginary armed robbers. Over the weekend, users on social media used the hashtag Lagos Unrest and Ogun Unrest to report the attacks. However, in a statement to the BBC, the police insist that no one was actually attacked. Let's take a quick look at the videos that circulated online before we come back for a discussion.
And in the top 10 most unbelievable referrals that the Nigeria police force has made, this tops it. A hoax? This is a hoax?
I mean, I can't imagine however, that is a hoax. The first video there, you see that the young boy was brutalized, really. I mean, that video was quite graphic. He was
you don't need to go far.
Almost.
We had Adefemi Akinsanya,
Thank you, yes.
a Rice News correspondent, going to some of the affected communities in Lagos, and she reported, interviewed persons in communities, and they attested to the fact that, you know, they've been under threat from persons who call themselves Awawa boys.
1 million
Awawa
boys.
means we also exist,
yes.
You know, or those who call themselves 1 million boys. And subsequently, we also saw video reports of the police commissioner in Lagos State going to some of those communities to reassure the people and providing extra support in the affected communities around Agege, Yanokpaja, and all of that. So would the State Commissioner of Police personally go out there to reassure the people if it was, you know, a scam? And then, of course, after that, we had report that 191 persons were arrested, classified as hoodlums, persons who have been threatening some communities by the police. So is that also fake news? So I think that whoever is saying that this is a hoax should stop living in denial.
No, these are the police public officials that went to the BBC to
saying
report.
That,
yes, and that's the most appalling because I spoke to a police officer.
That doesn't make sense. You know, they may be trying to impress the BBC by lying. The truth of the matter is that there is growing restiveness in parts of Nigeria, in Ogun State, in Lagos State, and the police PRO, if he actually made that statement,
the one from Ogun State said that there was a call that came through, and that they said there were about several people that were killed, and when they went to investigate, no one was killed. I saw that one statement.
They should not live in denial. Yeah. They should realize that there is a security dimension to this crisis that we face, and that genuinely communities are under threat. I mean, many estates, many communities in Lagos, have they not heard of the stories of landlords not sleeping at night, having to organize themselves into vigilante groups? So I don't think anybody should make light.
I think what they're saying is that the vigilante groups, right, that were formed by the community, attacked the Awawa boys or the 1 million boys. So that's what they're trying to say. You know, the attacks were not really by the 1 million boys, that they were the vigilante groups that were attacking the 1 million boys or something like that. For spokespersons for the Nigeria police to begin to defend
gangs over civilians,
cults and gangs and
that's what the statement
that must be very strange indeed.
One thing is clear.
I want to believe that those persons, they are not necessarily speaking for the Nigeria police as an institution.
I mean, we had a video of a woman.
What they are saying is different from what the Inspector General of Police has been saying.
Yeah, I said no. I mean, to be very honest with you, there's hardly any commentary to give on the fact that they would come out and refer to this as a hoax. I spoke to a police officer this morning who lives in Iyanaipaja, and he was able to confirm all the reports that we received. We don't even need that confirmation. Like you said, Doctor, our very own correspondent has given us reports showing exactly what people are going through. So to come out and say it's a hoax is a complete insult on the people. And quite frankly, it reflects exactly what is wrong with the Nigeria police force. They can never, ever get their story straight because their story is never transparent or clean.
All right, well said.
You still have one more story?
Let's head over to the U.S. now. The United States Treasury Department has ordered President Donald Trump's name to be printed on the stimulus checks the Internal Revenue Service is rushing to send out to tens of millions of Americans. The decision means that when recipients open their checks, President Donald J. Trump will appear on the left side of the payment. According to the IRS, the process could slow down the delivery of the checks by a few days. It will be the first time in U.S. history that a president's name will appear on an IRS disbursement.
Well, the Treasury Department has denied that it's going to delay the distribution of the checks. But when I saw that, President Trump, who is naturally boastful, he's been threatening even Congress, saying that he has a lot of powers. But, showing that power by putting his name on the stimulus checks, when I saw that, I laughed. We have to double-check President Trump's DNA because he's behaving like our typical African dictators. It's in Africa that you will see a government introduce an initiative and the governor or the president will put his name on it. It's a clear evidence of
boastfulness, bloatedness,
megalomania,
everything along those lines.
We call him King Trump now.
Big ego. So for him, his ego has to stand in the way of the distribution of stimulus checks. But anyway, it's good news.
Well, I guess the word is just,
about 8 million families, that's the good news side of it, will get a check of about $1,200.
Correct.
And this will be direct disbursement. The kind of thing that Nigerians would like to see.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure even the average Nigerian would not like to see the name of the president if Nigeria were to adopt that. So we have an African president in the United States.
I'm sure a lot of Republicans, a lot of people love it, Dr. Abati. Trust me.
I said we have an African president in the United States.
All right, should we take our final story? I love this story. Let's take our final story in the UK. More than 250,000 people have donated to a 99-year-old veteran's quest to raise money for the NHS by walking around his garden. Captain Tom Moore had originally hoped to raise £1,000 by walking 100 lengths of his 25-metre garden in Bedfordshire, England. His aim was to complete the walk before he turns 100 years old on April 30th, but now he is currently on track to finish by Thursday. The captain posted on his Twitter account on Wednesday had been raised.
Love to see
I know.
This is amazing.
Truly inspirational story.
I love it.
And his initial target was £1,000.
Correct.
But he's been able to raise, as at this morning, the papers are reporting £10 million
Can you
for
just
the
imagine?
NHS charity together. And you know the NHS gives out £1 million per day. And this is a major contribution coming from a 99-year-old war veteran.
It's amazing.
From his garden in Bedfordshire.
And he made the point that, you know, the NHS people, they're magnificent people, they're wonderful people who deserve every support.
Yes.
If a 99-year-old war veteran can do this,
We
then
can all
that's
do
a
a lot
challenge
more.
for all
And
of
it
us.
should be a challenge, really, right now for everyone to
No,
do.
this is
So, Oji, you see
amazing.
why that small 5,000, 10,000.
Dr.
Should come out of
Can
your
I
pocket.
can I show you my bank account to show you how many disbursements I've made
Either
so
way,
far?
now is the time for all of us to help
give.
everybody
Yes,
around us and to give as
absolutely.
much as
Should
we
Just
can.
keep giving. That's all we need right now.
Absolutely.
Despite
Oji,
the
thank you so
situation.
much for what's
Thank you
trending
very
today,
much, Oji.
and
Thank you, Dr.
we will
Abasi.
see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.